Good evening, everyone. We are the group number 7, and we are Albert Alex, Bastida Joel, and Olivos Eric. Example number 7, speaking, discussing an environmental issue, teens or adults, advanced level. Next slide, please. Um, um, Here we have a chart where we have task takers and students. Each group, teens or adults, as the title mentioned, level of language ability is advanced. Language could be ESL or EFL. Language is activity, speaking, dialogues, discussions about an environmental issue, and intended uses are summative decisions. Next slide, please. First, we have setting the example. Here we have the paragraph, but I put it three main ideas of the whole paragraph. So first, a teacher in a content-based ESL or EFL classroom in a secondary school or university needs to develop a classroom assessment for his advanced level students. For this, the teacher wants to make sure that students who pass the grade are prepared for instructions at the next level. Also, for this teacher is going to use results of assessment during the course in order to decide which students pass or not. And finally, assessment bases on students' science class. In this case, environmental issues is the topic. According with instructions of ESL and EFL class. Next one, please. Assessment use argument. Here we have the claim number 1, our intended consequence, which are beneficial for stakeholders. So here we have intended consequence. The students that master the learning objectives will benefit receiving an appropriate instructions in the next level. So the intended stakeholder here are students, EFL, and or ESL teacher in the next level, in the next level. And then we have students who not master the objective receive benefits on instruction in the same level. It means that the students are not going to pass to the next level, and the intended stakeholders are students, teacher, and the teacher in the current level. Next slide, please. Claim number 2. The highest takers summative decisions are made by teacher at the end of the school year or the period of the course. So here we have the decisions to be made, as we mentioned before, is a summative decisions. So decide which students pass to the next grade and students that are not going to pass. Individual who will make the decision, obviously the teacher, when the decision will be made at the end of the course term. And the stakeholder who will be affected by these decisions are student, teacher, parents, and in all school community.
Yes.
Claim number 3, sorry. Intended interpretations. The interpretation about 5 of student speaking ability are relevant to summative decision to be made. These five aspects of student speaking ability are task achievement, knowledge of topic content, use of accurate grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. This will be made based on assessment. The interpretation is meaningful, reflecting on the content of the course level. Now the claim number 4, assessment records. Here the assessment of speaking is constant across days of administration. It means it could be a daily assessment, a group of students, also student score, students performance, all these aspects has to be according with a rating scale. Next. Well, here we have the chart of possible source of inconsistency in a score. First, inconsistencies in administration of the assessment. That it could be different time or days of the administration, different period of the students, or different group of students. Number 2, inconsistencies across different topics. It could be different topic for discussion and different pairing of the students. Number 3, inconsistencies in how students' performance are scored. It could be different application of the rating scale for one student to the next, and different application of the rating scale from one pair of students to the next. Next slide, please. Okay, here we have a chart with some possible backing for intended assessment. Records include number 4, possible source of inconsistency. 1, inconsistency in administration of the assessment. It could be different time of the administration, different administration for different part of students or group of students, and possible backing to assure consistency. Documentation of administrative procedures to be followed. Teacher notes from administrating the assessment at the different times during the class period, different dates, with different part of students or group of students. Number 2, inconsistency across different topics. It could be different topic of discussion and different pairing of students.
Different pairing groups.
Okay, possibly backing to assure consistency. Documentation. That's the specification for the topics to be used in the assessment. Teachers note any different topics may have affected performance of students. Teachers note how the attributes of students who were prepared might have affected their performance. Number 3, we have inconsistencies in how students' performance are scored. It could be different application of rating scales for one student to other, different application of the same rating scale from one pair of students to the next. Possible backing are documentation, rating scales, and instruction for scoring. Teacher notes on how the rating scales may have been applied differently from one student to the next or across various students. Okay, next one. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Alex.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'm going to explain assessment task development. The first step. Sorry, teacher.
Your name is Bastidas, Joel?
Yes, teacher. Joel Bastidas, my name.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the first step, TLU task selected for task development. The first is a short descriptive level for TLU task, which consists in discussing an environmental issue orally in the language classroom, it means in English. The areas of language ability, the TLU task engage, are in speaking, a dialogue, and discussing the issue in pairs of the environmental issue. Step number 2. Here we can see the description of the TLU task. Activities to be followed. The first activity to be followed is the teacher explains the speaking activity to the class. In this activity, each group will discuss one of the environmental issues that have just been covered in the science and English classes. The second activity, the teacher and students discuss the features of a discussion. The third activity, students are given a statement about the environment to discuss. The next, students work individually on their own point of view and opinions for the discussion, taking notes as needed. The next, students then form groups of 3 or 4 members. The next, students work collaboratively in their groups, discussing their points of view and opinions about the environmental issue. The teacher moves around, listens to the groups, and facilitates the discussion as needed. Each group presents the main points of their discussion to the class. The other students in the class may ask questions after each presentation. And finally, the teacher provides general verbal feedback on the quality of the discussions. Here we have the task characteristics. First, the setting, the physical circumstances, the teacher in front of the classroom, students in group of 3 or 4 persons. The materials for the activity are paper and pencils for taking notes, and the participants obviously are the teacher and the students. The time of the task, during the class periods, the assessment task required 2 periods to be completed. Now the inputs. Form array. The teacher will give a description of the task, the students' discussion of an environmental issue, and visual words and phrases that the students may write on paper. The language in English. The teacher, simple grammar and vocabulary statements. The students, medium to long utterances, advanced grammar and vocabulary, and the topical content and environmental issue. Now, the expected response. The form, visual words, phrases, and sentences that the students write on paper to support their speaking. Oral, students' discussions of an environmental issue, students' questions, students' responses, and the other students' questions. The language in English, medium to long utterances, advanced grammar, vocabulary, question and answers, and the topical content and environmental issue. Now the step number 3, the modified assessment task template. The activities and procedures to be followed. On the day before the assessment, the teacher says to the students 3 important things. They will have an assessment of their speaking the next day, and the other one, the teacher will assign the students to pairs for the assessment. The test will be given individually to each pair, And on the day of the assessment, the teacher assesses pairs of students individually. The teacher briefly explains the assessment task again. The teacher makes sure the students understand the procedure. The teacher calls the names of the students to the assessment. For the assessment, the teacher shows the pair a question about an environmental issue. The students take 1 minute to read the topic and think about their discussions. The students discuss the environmental issue. The teacher scores the students' performance using the rating scale. The teacher lets the two students go back to the class and calls the next pair of the students for the assessment. During the next lesson, the teacher gives the students their recording forms. The teacher gives the class general feedback on the areas of strength and the areas in which they need to improve. And finally, we have the administrative procedures. The assessment takes place during a regular classroom period. It is given on a paired speaking activity between two students, with the teacher observing and listening in a speaking corner of the classroom. The teacher calls the first pair of students to be assessed. The teacher explains the assessment task and makes sure that the students understand the procedure. The teacher gives the students a question about an environmental issue and allows them to take 1 minute to think about the discussion. Then the students have 5 minutes to discuss the topic. While the students are speaking, the teacher scores each student using the rating scale. And finally, the teacher calls the next pair for the assessment.
Okay, good evening. So I'm going to talk about the task characteristic of the modified task of the assessment task template, okay? First, we have the assessment task, that is a speaking pair discussion of an environment use issue. Areas of language ability to be assessed. Task achievement, knowledge of topical content, use of correct grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation in speaking, okay? Here we have task characteristics. Here the settings, physical circumstances. The teacher with a pair of students seated on at a table at speaking of the corner of the classroom. The equipment or materials for the students are going to be the paper and pencils for taking notes. And for the teacher are going to be recording form, writing scale, and pen or pencil. The participants are going to be teacher and a pair of students that are going to be 10 or adults with an advanced level. Then we have the time of task that is going to be during the class period. And as you know, the schools usually have around 40 people by each class, so that requires more than one class, depending on the number of students. In the input, in the oral form, we have the teacher's spoken description of the task. In the visual form, we have words and phrases that students might write. In the language, we have that is English. In the teacher, oral short spoken description and explanation using simple grammar and vocabulary. In the lunch, the teacher is going to use short utterance. Visual is going to use short words and phrases. Next, please. Okay. In the expected response, we have the visual form that the students are going to take notes for their discussion, and in the oral form, the students are going to discuss of an environment issue. In the language, we have the English, medium, long utterances, advanced grammar and vocabulary, question and answers, and the length in the visual, 1 minute to read and think about their discussions. In the oral, about 5 minutes for each pair to discuss the issue. And the topical content we have that is an environmental issue. Next, please. So Here we have the assessment development question for claim 4. So here we have two main questions. The first is, what kinds of assessment record, description, scores, or grades do we need? That means what kind of assessment record will be most appropriate for the intended use of the assessment. And the second one is the what is intended quality of the assessment records that we will use. The first is what are the intended quality of inconsistencies that we are going to find on the assessment. And the second, we have the what can I do to minimize those inconsistencies in the assessment, okay? Next, please. So then we have the assessment records. First, we have the assessment performance. Here are going to be the answer that our students are going to give us. It could be marks, notes, are going to be, in this case, are going to be in our way, okay? Then we have the assessment record. Here is a paper in which the teacher is going to put the grade of the students. And then we have the score. The score is the grade that we are going to give that we are going to give to our students. That it could be in numbers or it could be in letters, as you can see in this image. So next, please. So number 3, we have the modified task or assessment task template recording method. Here we have the type of assessment record is going to be score. The aspect of ability, we're going to score 5 aspects of speaking. That is going to be the task achievement, knowledge of topical content, grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. The scoring method is going to be criteria for each aspect, okay? 4 points it's for all or wide, 3 points is for most or good, 2 points is for some or moderate, and 1 point is for few or limited. The score reported is the total score is the task achievement plus the knowledge of topical content plus grammar plus vocabulary and plus pronunciation. The procedures, the teacher listens to student discussion and enters a score for each aspect of speaking in the written scale for each student. The teacher then adds up the scores to arrive at a total score and enters this on the recording form. This is given back to the students during the next lesson. Next. So in this activity, our students are going to ask some of these prompts. As you can see, we have 3 prompts that is going to be, what do you think can be done to reduce fossil fuel emissions? Who do you think is responsible for reducing fuel emission and why? As you can see, the only thing that changes in each prompt is the environmental use. In the first is the fossil fuel emission, and the second is the amount of the waste material that is produced. And the number 3, we have the amount of air pollution. The students are going to choose one of them and they are going to talk about it. Next. So as you can see, here we have the rating scale. Here we have the points and we have the criteria, the task, achievement, knowledge of topical content, the grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation. It is divided depending on how is the performance of our students. And in the next slide, next slide, please. In the next slide, you have the recording form. In this form, you're going to put the name of the students, the date, and the number of the prompt that they have chosen. The number 1, the 2, the number 3. Then we have the rating scale aspect of speaking. Here is where we are going to put the grade, okay, in each blank. And after that, we are going to, as I said, we are going to put the total score in the down of the recording form. So, and it's going to be given for our students to the next class. So it's all for our presentation, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. So how many students in your group? Sorry.
We are 3 students, Prof.
Only 3 students. Yeah. I was expecting 4. Yeah, but that's okay. No, great. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Eric, no, you're Eric.
Yes, Prof.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so with this, we have completed all the presentations. I think it's been a very productive 2-day presentations. It's been a very productive time for you guys to have the opportunity to analyze the examples given in the text. Well, of course, the next thing to do will be that you put into practice this. First, that maybe you start implementing this in your classes, in your assessments. That you produce maybe your own assessments, and then you using the concepts and the examples and the samples given in the text, you can start doing your own. Well, remember that at the beginning, it's going to be hard work. It's going to take up a lot of time. But once, for example, the template is done, and then you learn to modify assessment tasks now to create new assessment. Well, you're gonna get the expertise needed for mastering the assessments. Well, let's say language assessment. Great, but of course it's a long way to go. We have to learn to analyze our students. We have to remember all the concepts about generalizability, these concepts of inconsistencies, and work on them hard to avoid problems, to avoid complaints from students, right? So it's a long road, but I think you know the basis now. You have the basis, and now it's a matter of implementing this, and try and innovate. Try one thing. If it doesn't work, try a different angle. Try some of the examples in the book. Try your own examples, of course. Well, and so, well, with this, we practically have finished this book. The only thing missing would be, I think it's chapter 11 and 12, which is about administrating this assessment, and the other one is something about scoring. Great, but well, so in the next class we're going to start reviewing concepts that we have in the other book. Remember, we began with this smaller book, Assessments in the Language Classroom, I think is the name, right? And so, well, the good thing is that you have access to the whole book, because we were able to find the full edition downloadable in online, and it's in one of the first conversation in the chat, in our chat. And so I strongly suggest that you start reading this book. We, in the first classes, I think we cover chapter 1, but we're going to be looking back at the concepts here. For example, the concepts of the principles of assessment, for example, fairness, meaningfulness, the validity, practicality, washback, all those things. So we're going to be, yes.
Sorry, would you mind repeating the name of the book, please?
Yeah, the name of the book is Assessment in the Language Classroom by Liying Cheng and Jana Fox.
Liying Cheng and
Liying Cheng and Jana Fox. Jana with double.
Okay.
Yeah, Avi was lucky enough to find the whole book, a free sample, a free copy that is available online, and so and we have it in our chat. So I think that you should download it and maybe file it. If you can print some copies, if you want to print, if you like working on paper, no, it's going to be very, very useful, because we're going to start analyzing concepts from there. And the next thing will be to look at assessing the 4 skills. No, so assessing writing, assessing speaking, vocabulary and grammar, and assessing reading. No, well, the 4 skills. And so maybe we're going to spend 1 week in each of those 4 skills, plus the general concept that I mentioned. So we have a lot of material for the next 5-6 weeks that we have ahead of us. Okay, so thank you very much for participating actively. Very good presentations. I think everybody has learned from their own topic, and of course from their classmates' presentations. Now we've seen examples of reading, writing, all 4 skills. No, so I think we have covered a wide range of possible assessments. And of course, in the book, you have example 8, example 9, if you want to look at them, and the authors have a website, you know, where they have posted another 5 or 6 examples, you know, that are available for you whenever you need them. Great. So that's all for tonight. Like I said, I suggest looking through this book, and it would be of much help for you to reread chapter 1, where we have all these concepts of washback, validity, reliability, all that, you know, just to have a discussion, introduce that, go over some concepts, give some examples, right? And well, and that's all. Thank you very much. You know, thank you, Abby, for the sessions, for hosting the sessions.
Great.
And thank you everyone for attending, you know, for watching and listening to all presentations.
Thank you,
Thank
Prof.
you.
Okay.
Thank you.
you
So
on Thursday.
on
Bye.
Thursday. Yeah, class dismissed. Have a good night, you know,
Thanks.
and buen provecho, those that are having dinner now, maybe.
Thanks, Prof.
Okay.